So let's look at this in two concepts. We're going to look at establishing project sponsorship, which is quite a long task, by the way, because of the fact you have a pre-sales and a post-sales process that we need to deal with. So we need to execute those very well to establish project sponsorship, but then we're going to show you a couple of techniques in how to maintain project sponsorship. Now, to look at establishing project sponsorship, we have to look at three very critical elements of the project's creation process, and that is the estimation and selling process, the sales to services handover process once the deal is closed, and then the kickoff process of the deal itself. And each one of these is fraught with things that can go sideways that eventually affect your ability to be an effective sponsor. And so we want to try and minimize those as much as possible and set you up as the person in charge of this project. Now, failing to complete these basically puts you in a passive mode. And what have we said about passive implementations of projects? It just doesn't care. Again, it's probably equivalent to Don's pretending to care, right? Like, I'm here, but I'm on another project and I'm really just going to do stuff whenever the client gets back to me. That doesn't work. So we actively go about and establish ourselves as the project sponsors. So let's look at the project selling side, right? In order to sell a project, there's a couple of things we need to think about. When we sell as professional services people inside of the sales process, we often get confused by these two elements, truth and trust. And I got to tell you, when I was at IBM and I first got involved in sales cycles, I was focused on bringing truth to the situation. And my managers, they would rail on me, right? I am making the deal go sideways. And I'd be like, well, what? I'm just injecting the truth. Don't inject the truth. The truth can derail a deal. And not that the truth is bad, guys, and not that we're asking anybody to lie. But what we're saying is there is a way to take truth and turn it into trust. And trust is what we want in a sales cycle. To give you an example, truth would mean you don't have enough budget to do this. You need more budget. Or it might be you can't achieve everything that you want. Or we need more time to implement this. Yes, that might be the truth. But there are ways to use that to build trust. Look, we'll identify the constraints required or help you use the constraints you have to build the solution you need. It won't be easy, but we've done this before and we know how to succeed. There are ways to present information so that instead of jamming the truth in somebody's face, what you're doing is saying, trust me, come with me, I'm going to help you succeed.
And a lot of people think that risk factor is a showstopper too, Shane. But I tell you, trust without risk is like a Coke without fizz. It just doesn't happen, right? There's got to be risk, and trust is not an immediate thing. It's built over time, right? So you got to earn that trust, and you do it.
Customers read the reports, Don, right? Yep. They know that projects fail, so they are scared. And it's okay to acknowledge that there are risks in projects. And if in acknowledging that, you're also saying, and by the way, we kind of know what we're doing because we do this all the time, then now that starts to build trust. Sales is a courtship, right? And courtships are all built on trust. And that's what we're trying to do. So let's look at an example here. One of the examples that we see most commonly, and I was guilty of this early in my career, as a PS manager, we get involved in the sales cycle and the sales team is trying to sell a deal. And what we want to do is we want to get down and we want to do that bottom-up estimate. We want to start, get all the detail, drag out all the skeletons from the closet, and we want to build that project plan up with like an infinite amount of data. But here's the problem. That just takes an enormous amount of time. And no matter how much time you put into it, the studies show that when it comes down to bottom up versus top down, there's barely any difference in eventual accuracy. Why is that? Because as they showed in the study, the most important thing about an estimate, regardless of the methodology, is the quality of the expert making the estimate. So if that's the case, let's not drag a whole bunch of information out of a customer and make them feel like this is like an arduous journey to go get information that they don't have at this point in time. Let's use the simplest process to assess the complexity of a project. And then that doesn't give the customer the misrepresentation that we know everything about what's coming in this project. Because you know what? We don't. Whether or not you do bottom up or top down, we still discover an awful lot of things during a customer facing project. So our recommendation is you get in and you help the sales team sell. Yes, you need to understand complexity. Yes, you need to understand scope that you can define. But then you've got to accept as a part of this journey, we're going to discover things anyway. And trying to be the person that nails all this to the wall, which is exactly what we used to be told at IBM. Let's try build an SOW that nails the client down. It just doesn't work. IBM was trying to do it 60 years ago. They're trying to do it 40 years ago, 20 years ago. They're still trying to do it today. It doesn't work. What works is saying to the client, I'm going to lead you, and there's a lot of complexity on this project, and we'll work it out as we go. But my experience tells me it's a yay big project. This is how much it's going to cost. And we're going to keep you informed about that as we go through it.
Yeah, one of the insights about trust, Shane, I'll put it's personal, right? We trust people, and that's what you're basically saying here is you got to build the confidence with the customer that you're going to take care of.
And the one thing I'll have to back up on my own statement a little bit, Don, is to make sure that customers do build trust with you when you do have the detail, right? So we're not recommending that you present with an absence of detail, right? But what we recommend